Let's podcast alongside Lauren Brownlow. I'm Joe Ovius inside the Eford Studios, downtown Raleigh. Thanks to Empire Properties and thanks to Copiers Plus. Check them out online at copiers-plus.com. Print management, document management, things that you think you can get a handle on, right, Lauren? Like offensive play calling. You know, you're the head coach, and I'm going to do the offensive play calling too. Maybe you shouldn't.
Maybe it's too much work.
Maybe it is too much work for you. Maybe you should get an expert to handle it for you. In that vein, you contact Copiers Plus to do that for your print and document management so you can focus on the things that you need to focus on.
I trust them to call a couple plays, to be honest.
That might be a subtle shot at the Carolina Panthers.
Not that subtle.
It might not be that subtle, but we'll get to that a little bit later on. Giglio is golfing today. It's the SAS Media event today. The SAS Championship is right around the corner. So he's out there golfing today, hobnobbing, doing his things.
Oh, yeah.
In 2 weeks, Giglio's Super Bowl is a free golf event. My Super Bowl is the NC State Fair lunch.
Ooh.
When we get to preview the new foods.
Oh, that's exciting.
Very excited about that. And frankly, it's like the little things that keep you going because it hasn't exactly been a great weekend for football here in North Carolina. So let's go ahead and run through some of that with premature evaluations. All right, Lauren, let's start with the big game from Saturday night, and that is Duke, Notre Dame. Almost.
Oof.
Almost. And making matters worse is how the game ended from the 4th and 16 where Sam Howell's able to get 17 yards, and on the very next play, they're off.
Tim Hartman.
Off scoring a touchdown. Although I joked, maybe they scored too soon because there was like 30 seconds left and Duke I still think had 2 timeouts left. But of course, things ended badly because Riley Leonard's ankle got rolled on. Based on some early reports, at least through Pete Thamel and from Steve Wiseman over at the News and Observer. Here's Thamel's report late yesterday. Some more context on Leonard per ESPN sources. The injury is a high ankle sprain. And while the timeline of return isn't certain, multiple weeks is likely the timeline. I know Steve Wiseman, who we'll talk to a little bit more tomorrow when we talk about our AP Top 25, will have some more context with Riley Leonard. So at least it's not the worst case scenario. But Duke losing to Notre Dame in and of itself, to me, Lauren, is a missed opportunity to truly break through for Mike Elko. But it should not take away from what Duke can do in the league. It doesn't count towards the league standings.
Right.
But without Riley Leonard for a couple of weeks in a key stretch of games in October, it does kind of put that in perspective.
It does. And then there's also the whole fact of like, look, I mean, I honestly don't remember a more painful Duke loss, except maybe the Miami one with the
octolateral. That was a tough one, yeah.
But this is tougher, I think, because this is a Notre Dame team that had won, I think it was 29 straight. Now it's 30 straight over ACC teams in the regular season. Duke's one of the only, they've got a win over them, which is a lot of teams in the ACC can't say.
Right.
They were going to become the only team besides Clemson to have beaten them twice. It's a huge marquee win for your program. Like it's saying like we can play with we can play with these guys. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying they didn't send that message with like what they were able to do in the game. They were, but like not only do you lose in extremely painful fashion when it looked like you were about to win, but then you lose your quarterback at the end. Like I just wonder too how demoralizing it must feel for them and how they're going to get back up mentally as well.
Well, what's interesting is that I didn't know if Notre Dame was going to be able to get back up mentally after what happened against Ohio State.
They always find a way.
They spent the entire week sitting here talking about, they sat there and they talked about, we have a system in place to make sure we have 11 guys on the field, and how is that going to affect their college football playoff?
Well, people were counting this game, and I didn't see it happen again. So maybe
what do you mean?
The people were counting how many men they had on the field constantly.
I know.
I don't think they got caught again. Yeah. So maybe it worked, whatever the system is or whatever tweaks they made. Hopefully.
Yeah, there was a goal line situation that Duke ended up scoring on. But yes, Notre Dame did have 11 men on the field.
Right.
So I think based on what we've seen out of Duke so far this season, I do think it's in them to bounce back. That's just not the nature of this Elko squad because we've seen it in the game. All right. Because how many times? Because even in the Clemson game.
For sure. No, you're right. And even in this game, even in the Notre Dame game, Duke even a couple years ago gets blown out after the first, half happens.
Things fall apart.
Yes.
So in the Clemson game, there were several instances they'd like to have things back. Okay.
That's that's the thing. They didn't play great against either of them.
And in the Notre Dame game, more of the same. Riley Leonard throws an early interception. How do they bounce back from that? Well, Riley Leonard still found ways to break things off.
They can't capitalize on scoring chances.
They can't do that either. And the defense kept coming up with big plays, and the offense kept getting what it needed all the way there until the end.
Yes.
Now, about that 4th and 16, we'll close the conversation on this.
I mean.
Look, here's the thing. I get it. The first 3 plays of that drive, they brought the heat on Sam Hartman, and it worked. And he was feeling the pressure and everything else. I don't necessarily disagree with the idea of what they were doing on a 4th and 16, because it's not like Sam Hartman in a shotgun, not the old mesh where you have to take things into account. Okay, remember, this is not Wake Forest Sam Hartman, who was in a shootout with them last year.
No, now he's being used more pedestrianly.
He is.
Sorry, it's true.
It's true, though. But that's all they need out of him at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So he's not set up to run. I think playing prevent was not the issue.
That's what I think was throwing people, is like, we've seen Sam Hartman run plenty. So you're sitting there like, of course he can get like.
Of course he can.
But in
that situation, he's not. This is, again, not Wake Forest. I think, and Mike Elko talked about it after the game. It wasn't necessarily not bringing pressure, only bringing 3 and going into a prevent defense. It was more about the fact that they were chasing the wide receivers so much that they forgot, oh, by the way, we probably should play up. We should probably be underneath just in case. And that's where the failed execution comes into play.
Right, for sure. And, it's easy to forget about that. And you see it all the time. You even see it in the NFL where everybody's covering somebody, and then all of a sudden the quarterback, even if it's a slow dude, just rumbles up the middle for a first down. Not that I haven't seen that happen a million times to my own team.
All right, so Friday night, NC State, Louisville was another ugly contest featuring NC State.
Yeah, that was...
And unlike what happened against Virginia, where be happy we won, it was what is this offense about?
This is where I cringe for Dave.
Okay.
Doran. Because I have to say this. I like Dave. Like, as a dude.
Sure.
He seems funny. I like his dry sense of humor. And I feel like Dave is kind of misunderstood in a lot of ways, like by fans, especially, and sometimes he's a little prickly, and he can come across like he's very stubborn. I think he is, but I also think he knows how to make adjustments and adapt to win, because we've seen it. It has been a while since we've seen that. I think, just kind of changing the mindset of this program. We've seen him do that.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's what I'm kind of saying. And like, we've seen them build up this defense into a unit that every single year they can depend on.
Yeah.
But the offense is what's going backwards. And I think it's always going to be harder. I speak from experience, people. It's always going to be much harder to watch your team struggle on offense than defense. It just is. You didn't see people tuning out of Carolina games last year, even though their defense was garbage, did you?
No.
But you're going to tune out real fast if your team can't even, move the ball more than 5 yards.
I think the frustration for NC State fans is that you've seen this before.
Exactly.
That's and it's not just in the Dave Doran era either, by the way. I'm talking about in the history of NC State. You got to go back to 2004, 2005 timeframe, even 2006.
No, that's true.
Where
I remember
post Phillip Rivers.
Yeah.
Chuck Amato had recruited well defensively. They put guys in the NFL, yet they still had a losing record in that first year after Phillip Rivers, the Jay Davis years. And then you found yourself with Bailey Hockman, Harrison Beck, Daniel Evans has to go out there and win you a game, for heaven's sake. So there is a history there with NC State having a great defense that is simply not supported by the offense.
Yeah, and that's very frustrating to watch too.
But to hyper focus it on Dave Doran, we've had this conversation multiple times about Dave, in that he wants to win a particular way.
Yes.
We've now started to make the Iowa Wolfpack jokes. All right.
And that's
where
I feel like we're being a little fair to Dave, because if you literally look at Iowa stats in the course of a game, you will wonder if someone is doing it on purpose.
Well, I'm starting to wonder if NC State's doing it on purpose from time to time. Are you sure?
Yes.
Things are pretty bad offensively.
They're bad, but they're not Iowa bad. I promise.
Okay. And things aren't going to get any better for NC State going forward, by the way.
No.
The schedule gets a little bit more difficult. And on top of that, it's not like Dave Doran's record in October is all that great. Gilio put this on yellow pad form, spooky season for Dave Doran month by month. And if you look at the entire month of October since he's been here, since 2013, he has a record of 15-20.
Okay. Oh, that's not that bad.
15-20 is not bad, except that you got Marshall coming up next. Marshall has wins over ECU and Virginia Tech. Then you have Clemson in there. Oh, by the way, I forgot about Duke. Duke doesn't have Riley Leonard, but we know Duke defensively is going to make things very difficult for an offense that cannot move the ball consistently or turn it over in the way that Brennan Armstrong has. So you got Duke, Clemson, and then November starts with Miami. which, by the way, quick aside, is anybody talking about the Hurricanes?
Oh, they hate and love that, I think. Probably.
It's kind of weird. It is kind of a weird situation with the Hurricanes. Florida State, understandably, has taken a lot of air out of the room. What's going on with Dabo at Clemson is clearly a conversation point. You got Drake May and North Carolina taking a lot of headlines. But quietly, it's like we forget Miami, at least the way they've been winning and where they've been dominating, is up front.
Yeah.
And Tyler Van Dyke has had time to do things that he was not able to do last year. So they've markedly improved in that regard. I'm sure Dave Doran would watch Miami's offensive line and go, man, where does he get those wonderful toys? Well, I'd like to have a QB protected at some point, because that's probably Brennan Armstrong's biggest issue right now. He's their leading rusher.
Yes. And that's, by the way, that's why he keeps playing. I know MJ Morris can run too, but it's also the fact that I'm sure Dave can read the room enough to understand what he's got on offense, and why put a guy in that he could use a redshirt year on with the personnel around them that they have, and why not just let a veteran guy go in there that, look, Brennan can still make plays. Is he going to turn it over? Yes. But is he going to hit he hit some really good passes in that game. Like, he's going to give you some of that too. But he doesn't have receivers that are getting open on their own. He doesn't have a great O-line right now. He's having to do it all in the running game. Like, I don't know, other than the turnovers, because that was the one thing that was making me like, I'm a little surprised Dave hasn't pulled, like, the turnovers. He hates turnovers. Dave Doran.
Turnovers.
But if he's leaving Brennan in with the turnovers, I promise you he's not doing this because he likes seeing a lot of turnovers and he likes bad quarterback play. That's not why he's doing it. We'll
get into that a little bit later on in a deeper conversation about why MJ Morris is not going to see the field anytime soon. Speaking of bad offenses, is Pittsburgh where offense goes to die, by the way?
Maybe it's the Panther mascot.
But it's not just the Panthers. It's also the Steelers, too.
Well, and see, I guess so.
Think about it. Like, my kingdom for an offense in Pittsburgh.
To be fair, with the Steelers, it's because they're the fan base that was leased into Taylor Swift, based on the graph I was seeing.
What graph what are you talking about?
The graphs are going crazy, like all of the stats with the social media and everything else. But people went in and dove in on that. The most Swifties, I think, was Nashville.
I could see that.
Yeah. So, and the Steelers were dead last.
So you think there's a direct correlation there?
They could try it. Try getting into some T-Swift. Go with Midnights. That's my advice.
You think Pat Narduzzi should just start blasting Taylor Swift at practice to see if it just kind of gets something going?
I can't think of anything he would probably hate more in his life besides scoring touchdowns. I think the Narduzzi thing, and maybe because I like Dave, that I don't think he's not trying to score. But Narduzzi, there is something to be said with these defensive-minded coaches, whether it's Kirk Ferentz, whether it's Dave Doran, whoever, and Pat Narduzzi, that they love their defense the most. And some of them have this weird disdain for offense in general. Like, it's just an inconvenience that has to happen while their defense while their beautiful defense is resting. You know what I mean? And when you look like you're coaching that way, you're never going to last very long with the fans, because that is the first thing, when that goes bad, that's the first thing that they're going to point to want you to go.
Is Georgia bored?
I mean, maybe. I don't know.
They're going for a third national championship. They haven't looked like the world beaters that people kind of presented them to be. Because remember, at the beginning of the season,
they also probably shouldn't be number one at this point.
Aha! That's what I was leading to. So Florida State has this really epic game against Clemson, and they pull it out in OT. Some Clemsoning happened, right? The Dabo and clock management. And
oh my God.
Various things. But I don't want to call it Clemsoning. I don't want to call it I think Clemsoning is dead.
Yeah, it's that. What that wasn't Clemsoning.
No.
Losing to Duke, you could make a case. That was way closer to Clemsoning.
I would say that Clemson's talent advantage is not so great anymore that they can just put dudes out there and win.
Agree, but I'm just saying.
But they're still in position to win games. Clemsoning is just getting your ass handed to you.
No, Clemsoning is failing when you're the ranked favorite and inexplicably against a team that you have way more talent than.
Well, that's the issue. I don't know if Clemson has that much more talent anymore, especially when you saw what happened against Florida State. But they played one of their best games against Florida State, but Florida State still won and they dropped. Georgia has not looked overwhelmingly fantastic the way they've been positioned to, except at the end with key moments, and then they're awarded for that. Like what happened with Bowers at the end.
That's what I don't get, because you could absolutely point to Florida State. You can point to the fact that they play with their food for a half almost always, which is going to bite them if they don't stop that. You could point to the fact that they struggle with Boston College. And frankly, I think that'd be the fairest critique, even if it's on the road still. Boston College is awful. So, yeah, that might be a little red flaggy for people. And for a half at Clemson, they looked lost. So I think it's fair to point to those things if you're going to. But at the same time, like, Georgia was like in a tight one with South Carolina. We all saw that South Carolina team week 1, right? Like, not very good.
They're not good.
And then it happens again this week. And you're like, okay, well, at a certain point, I get why they're number 1. I get that we assume they were going to be this behemoth. And maybe they eventually will be. I mean, they probably will. Let's be honest. Somebody has to be good this year, even though no one seems to be like dominant or I all that great.
It's why Nick Saban should get way more credit than he deserves, because he's been able to sustain that for a very, very long time. Kirby Smart's dealing with it right now at Georgia. That's going to wrap it up for our premature evaluations. Every time we talk about college football, it's brought to you by Wings Over. Check out Wings Over Raleigh, Wings Over Chapel Hill, Wings Over Greenville. I did not get to the wings this weekend. I'm going to correct that this upcoming weekend. Big fan of the hot lemon pepper.
Okay. Yeah.
They also have like try a barbecue one, like a sweet barbecue
That's
one.
What I could do that. I can't do that. If it has hot in it, I can't.
Yeah, the lemon pepper would be way too much for you. You could probably do mild, I guess.
Usually.
Maybe.
Some people lie about that, though. A mild is really more like a medium for some people.
Anyway, check over Wings Over Raleigh, Wings Over Chapel Hill, Wings Over Greenville. It's the easiest way to either hang out at home and watch football or win over a tailgate. Just bring stuff. It's all really, really good stuff over at Wings Over. Housekeeping. Couple things to keep note. We got podcasts galore, whether it's ours, 919 Vice, or Young Gun, featuring Lauren Brownlow and Dimitri Ravanos.
Oh, it'll be lit today.
Yeah, I was going to say, how's that going to go for you this week? Like, seriously, how's that going to go for you this week?
I'm going to try not to be grumpy.
Was he too short this week?
Yes. Literally, that happened.
Literally too short?
That literally happened this week.
He was too short this week.
Yes.
He literally was too short this week. Speaking of podcasts, our friends over at WUNC, North Carolina's public radio, they have a new podcast called The Broadsides, hosted by award-winning podcast producer Anissa Khalifa. The Broadside explores news, history, and pop culture stories rooted in the American South. Each week, the show goes beyond the headlines and explores a single topic impacting the region. And along the way, they'll zoom out and explain how this reverberates across the country. From the rapid spread of dollar stores to their impact on sustainable food access and how the word y'all has quietly conquered the English-speaking world. See what we're giving people?
That's right. You're welcome, y'all.
Broadside is your source for Carolina news and culture stories that might not be on the front page, but definitely deserve a deeper look. So go ahead, follow, listen to new episodes of The Broadside every Thursday, wherever you get your podcast. Also, big thanks to Homefield. They sponsor Ovias and Gilio. Check them out online at homefieldapparel.com. Use the promo code OG23. They released a new NC State ringer tee with like a classic, like a weird Tuffy design where he's like hitchhiking. I don't know if he's hitchhiking out of Carter Finley Stadium trying to look for some new offense. I don't know what he's doing there, but it's a cool shirt.
Yeah.
It's an excellent shirt. They drop new stuff all the time over at Homefield.
Yes.
And you can get yours today. Just use that promo code OG23 for 15% off your order. And big thanks to Matt Davis and SureGarner.com, theoginsurance.com. You can give them a call directly at 919-779-8277. We keep saving people money. We're hearing some success stories.
Yeah.
So I've been a State Farm customer for a really long time. Matt Davis can make sure that your insurance needs are met and saving money at the same time. Well, I think we've put it off long enough, Lauren. Let's talk about the disaster that is the Carolina Panthers. Don't look at me like that. That was a, are we really doing this? Are we really having this conversation right now? Yes, we have to. The Panthers are 0-4 and there's a lot wrong with them right now.
Yes, a lot. And maybe wrong with me because I keep watching it, somehow thinking things might turn out differently.
Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with BryceYoung first? Since he's always the focal point, he's the number one pick.
I'll be honest, it's probably overall the shortest conversation because Oh, no.
Pun intended?
Oh, no. Okay. I mean, listen.
He did look.
My confidence level in him, I ended the game with my confidence level in him being higher than it was on Monday night.
Yeah.
However, the Monday night game, it was, at a negative level. He had a few moments I liked.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I mean, this game, they got a few first downs in a row. It sent a tingle through my spine.
So there are times, and I hate this. I hate this because I really tried to view it a different way. I really tried to give it a go. Like, there are short quarterbacks in the NFL. There have been, and they've been successful. Drew Brees, Russell Wilson. There's a handful of them out there.
That's not helping.
I know it's not helping. But none of them look the way that Bryce Young looks when the pocket is collapsing or when they do the field level shot.
He looks like a little kid.
He looks like a kid.
Yes. Including his facial expressions sometimes.
Yeah.
Which also scares me. He sometimes makes faces that I would probably make when...
But that gets to the larger conversation.
Yeah.
Because I think that's where it needs to go with the Carolina Panthers. Talking specifically about Bryce Young right now.
And like breaking down how he's playing, breaking down tape is kind of...
to me, if you're gonna come at it from a Bryce Young perspective specifically, and trying to make this argument he's a bust or he's not a bust or yada yada yada, you're trying to have these strong takes on the play of Bryce Young, like he can't take that sack. Okay, cool. I get that. Good quarterback. You got to be better. But here's my question to this response: seeing Bryce Young take a sack or seeing Bryce Young get a crucial fumble. Let me ask you this. Where's he supposed to throw it?
Exactly.
Does he truly have time to make some of these decisions too, as the offensive line continues to crumble around him and Ike Ekwonu continues to regress this season after strong play in the back half of the year? Okay.
I don't understand, Icky. Why?
So
I love you.
And then there's other issues, as in, does the coaching staff, does Frank Reich specifically, do Bryce Young a disservice by being as confused as they seem to be in trying to get plays in and having the play clock run down all the way to the end?
Such Ron Rivera energy there.
Calling timeouts.
That was like Ron and Cam. That would happen routinely with Cam Newton, right?
Yes, it would happen all the time.
Yeah.
And what kind of
burning a timeout that you need? Yeah.
What kind of vanilla offense are you running?
What's so complicated?
I don't understand.
I'm sorry.
Well, hold on a second. What's so complicated? Why did they draft Bryce Young?
I don't know anymore.
They loved his processing. Remember the video game that he was all about?
It's so weird to me in hindsight because, like, to be fair to them, did they think the offensive line would be this terrible? I don't think so. And to be fair to them, I didn't either, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
Did I think it would be great? Of course not. Like, I'm not an idiot. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, by the end of last year, they were playing at a far higher level. We were seeing young guys really show their promise and kind of become more consistent. And all of a sudden this year, it's just a mess.
Well, Steve Wilkes knew what they wanted to be.
Well, that's true. They don't have an identity.
And so
they do have an identity, and it's terrible offense.
And that's what gets back to Frank Reich. Frank Reich was sold with his incredible brain trust of a coaching staff of overthinking things or simply not trusting Bryce Young. So what are you trying to do here? What is your identity? If Bryce Young is this guy that you actually gave up a lot to move up and take him number one because you were sold on his ability to process, why are you running such vanilla offense? Why are you essentially micromanaging what Bryce Young can and cannot do as they set things up for a check down to end up having him throw a bunch of screens? Josh Klein on Twitter, big Panthers guy.
Mm-hmm. Really good.
He pulled up the next gen stats and he pulled a Succession meme out of it. Because if you look on YouTube, you see the next gen stats, this diagonal line of green dots and all of the screen passes that they ended up resulting in. And it shows the eldest boy really, really sad from Succession that things are not going his way. So I really thought it encapsulated seeing that image and going, what the hell are the Panthers doing right now? And that would be my biggest question. What are you? And should Frank Reich be the one calling the plays?
No. I can answer the second question first. No. Like, I'm sorry, it's not working.
It's not working.
Like, anything would be better than this. It has to be.
Here's Frank Reich after the game.
Right, very little down the field today. A lot of screens, a lot of things around the line of scrimmage. What prompted that? What did you see out there? Because it didn't seem like there was a lot going on deep down the field.
Yeah, I mean, it was, because of their alignment, because of the threat of a blitz, you had to build in some short stuff and be ready. It's kind of similar to what the Chargers did last week. They had 400 yards passing, and most of it was just short dink and dunk. I'm not going to go into all the strategy and reasons why that is.
Oh, it's too advanced for
you got to have a mix. We had some shots called. We had a few shots called. Some we had to check out of for various reasons.
I know one.
We got the one penalty on the one deep shot that we took. So we just got to execute better overall.
That's Frank Reich after the game.
What?
It's like you're speechless over there.
I love that he threw in the whole, I'm not going to get into all the strategy.
He does that a lot. It is interesting.
It seems like he's phony in a different way than Matt Rule was phony. Whereas Matt Rule was like all corporate speak phony. It's like Frank Reich is like football speak phony.
Yes.
It's like, we're not stupid,
Yeah. It is interesting you bring that up, because I actually had that thought in watching the press conference yesterday, in that Matt Rule routinely got roasted for, I got to check the tape. And he would just stumble over himself, and shout out to Candace Cooper.
Or he would be like, I've really got these. We're really turning the corner.
Well,
I'm sure of it.
Frank Reich
it looks
said that
better
too.
than it seems.
But the one thing but the difference between Frank Reich and Matt Rule, and shout out to Candace Cooper, you knew that Matt Rule was spinning a tail when he started to speed up his speech.
Oh, yeah.
And he started kind of going like Elmer Fudd, like right. And that would be the end of it.
Yeah.
Frank stumbles into self-owns in blunt terms.
So many times.
It's pretty interesting to hear him talk. So he was asked about the inability to get the play in on time, the inability for the offense to look prepared at the snap. I mean, procedural penalties aside, because that right now, to me, it's right now the Panthers' biggest issue is coaching.
We've seen 10 years of this.
We have.
Like literally. That's why it's so frustrating for people like me and others like me who are sick.
So that to me is the part that you want to talk about BryceYoung, knock yourself out.
Yeah.
It's not like he's overwhelming you with incredible play.
No, am I sure about him? Absolutely not.
However, ask yourself this. Are the Carolina Panthers setting BryceYoung up to succeed? And if your answer is anything other than no, then
you're not paying attention.
I'd like to know what game you're watching at this point.
Right. It must be more entertaining than the one I'm watching.
Yeah. Well, put a pin in that, because I want to get to where the Panthers are nationally in a second. So they appeared completely unprepared in situations.
Yep.
And Frank Reich also apparently doesn't know what players are on the field for plays he specifically wants to run for them.
Don't think there were a lot of those. There were a couple. I'm not going to, there's one or two of those. We just got to operate a little bit faster. There's one that I called a play for Thielen, and then I realized he was out. And I didn't know he was out. I didn't know he was out fast enough. It was a play that could only go to Thielen, so I had to change the call. And that was the one we had to call a timeout on. So that was what happened on that.
A play that could only go to one wide receiver?
I mean, to be fair.
Well,
who else are you throwing to right now other than Thielen? He's the only one I trust right now to catch it. He's the only one I trust to make tough catches. I know he ain't getting open on his own.
Yeah. There's so much going on in that clip, from the inability to admit, no, you screwed up on more than one occasion. And he kept saying, well, a couple times. And there was a couple times, like he's processing in real time. Oh, wait, yeah, maybe there was something to not getting these things in on time. And then the admission that the guy who has been prickly about questions regarding play calling is admitting that he doesn't know what's going on, and then making matters even worse. Let's take the Thielen situation out of it. And I understand clock management is a difficult thing when there's so much chaos going on in the field. But how the hell do
hire a clock manager?
How the hell do you end the half the way they ended that half?
Oh my God. Like they literally, they'll stop the clock until 8 seconds were left. I think they got it back with 38. I'm sitting there like, those are, because it's hard to see the timeouts, I think sometimes on the broadcast. I'm like, there's the lines. 2, And then with 8 seconds left, I'm like, so great you have these with 8 seconds left now. And then they basically like sit on it at that. I'm just like, what are you doing?
Do you know how bad things have to be for the Carolina Panthers when Brady Quinn's on your broadcast and you're nodding your head along with Brady Quinn, both in that end of half sequence where he's like, y'all, why are you not calling a timeout?
You know what?
You've got timeouts.
I will say this. Yeah. I am relieved that they finally have had an announcer that is tough on them.
That's fine.
Because like so many announcers, they want their relationships with the coaches, all that stuff. I was glad that he was like, what is this?
Brady Quinn also called out the Panthers for being highly predictable as well. And this is now 4 weeks in a row, whether the broadcast or opposing players have said, we know what's going on.
He said like opposing coaches have said that.
And that's what Brady Quinn was referencing. Yep. You go back to the Atlanta game, who was it? Jesse Bates, who had the 2 interceptions, straight up said, on that second one, I knew exactly what they were doing, which gets back to those screens. It's become incredibly predictable.
Now people
Panthers
are jumping them too.
So the question is, why? Why is it so predictable? Is it because the team around Bryce Young sucks? Okay, that's entirely possible based on what we've seen after 4 games. Or is it you are having buyer's remorse with Bryce Young? And it makes me question. You want to engage in some conspiracy, Lauren? You ready?
Well, they've certainly opened themselves up to that.
Okay. We did not talk about it last week because the press conference was on Thursday. We were at Enlet last week. What did you make of Bryce Young's response to being asked about his ankle sprain?
He confirmed that it was a lie, basically. I mean, he was basically like, I don't know when I heard it. The staff told me not to play.
I trust the staff. Like he wasn't going to sell the coaching staff out.
When he heard it. Right. Did you happen to see Riley Leonard suffer a high ankle sprain? I know that was probably a little worse, and frankly, I'm relieved for him that it was only a sprain with the way his ankle bent.
Yes.
However, most people that get high ankle sprains, when they get them, they hurt a lot. Mm-hmm. It's not like suddenly, usually, at least the way I understand them, it's not a lot like later they get, I mean, maybe you play on it with the adrenaline or whatever, but you would at least feel the pain in the moment that it happens. Yeah, again, you saw Riley Leonard, he had to get carried off the field.
Yeah.
Bryce Young, like 3 days later, walking around at practice, getting on a plane, standing on the sidelines. Y'all are lying. Why did you lie about this? It is so stupid. You don't need to lie about it. Make up another injury. Give him an illness. What, is this your first rodeo?
Speaking of Bryce Young, here he is after the game, clearly frustrated towards the end of that game. Bryce Young lost his cool, and I thought it was interesting that he got to the podium still in pads.
We normally hear all evening, just so even keel, cool, calm, and collected. You seem to be a little bit frustrated for the first time visibly today. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, just frustrated myself. Definitely stuff that I want back, but at the same time, I have to do a better job of being that same guy on the sideline. Sometimes emotion comes out, and then you got to go to the next play, and again, for better for worse, do a better job of keeping that stone face regardless. But just mad at myself for stuff. There's always plays you want back, but it doesn't carry over. You have to have short-term memory. You have to be able to turn the page and move on. And there's some emotion in the moment, and then for me, just moving on after that. But still, obviously, as a leader, I want to make sure that I'm being consistent, being the same guy, being more steady. So there's a lot for me to improve on. That's definitely one of them.
That was Bryce Young after the game, dejected. Don't blame him. And I'll just get back to the key part of this conversation for me, and that's simply this coaching staff is not doing Bryce Young any favors in the way that they're handling the play calling, making it incredibly vanilla. It could get to the point where you're actually hurting his development, which is not what this coaching staff was sold on, which gets back to conspiracy number 2. I'm starting to wonder, and based on comments, based on how the action behind Bryce Young is.
Sure, yeah.
I'm starting to wonder if Frank Reich wanted Bryce Young in the first place. I'm starting to wonder if when they moved up and they had conversations about CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson, who you are seeing coached up and put into situations that are beneficial to them. I'm not sitting here and telling you that Anthony Richardson is going to be the next Hall of Famer. Certainly the Houston Texans are a surprise in how they're going about their season and how CJ Stroud has looked. He looks capable. Meanwhile, the Panthers are stuck in the mud. Why? Is it because the coaching staff didn't want Bryce Young and they're working with what they got, that they got essentially overruled by David Tepper? And remember, Nicole Tepper, who was always there, and it was always sold as David and Nicole Tepper love his mental ability. They love his processing. They love his demeanor.
Maybe they should actually stick to someone who has a football background to
right.
understand those things and stay out of it.
So I'm wondering if
You look like a clown in public, David Tepper. Sorry.
I'm wondering if there is a conflict of the football people versus what the owner wants, which is not unique to the NFL. You see this kind of stuff all the time. And I'm wondering if there's a buyer's remorse on BryceYoung, but it's too late now. You can't get those picks back.
No.
And now the Chicago Bears, the way that they're going right now, it's entirely possible they end up with the first 2 picks in the draft because they'll get the Panthers pick.
They won't do anything with it. But
Yeah,
that's
probably
fine.
not. They'll take Drake May and Caleb Williams. Maybe that's what they'll do next year.
Or like a tight end and a quarterback.
So to me, there's a whole list of issues for the Carolina Panthers. And the first thing they should have done is they should have admitted that this is much more of a rebuild than people want to admit. We're going to develop BryceYoung like we've seen with Tua Tagovailoa, we've seen with Patrick Mahomes. And then once the team gets better around him, then we can elevate BryceYoung to where we want him to be. And Andy Dalton's just going to kind of get us through the season. But it's too late for that now. It's too late for that now, especially in how they handled him coming back this weekend. They had an opportunity to just have him sit through the bye week, sit until week 8. It's too late now how you brought him back.
Yep.
And now you're in danger of ruining his development if you're not careful.
I also think the way they've handled him doesn't do any favors with how he's perceived either.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. And I had to check myself a little, to be fair. But when everybody started tweeting it at the same time that BryceYoung, he's been in his full uniform and pads X amount of time. He walks to the press conference with it on. Honestly, because of the lies the week before, in part, I was like, this feels performative. And I hate feeling like that. I have no reason to doubt that Bryce is a genuine dude in real life. I have no reason to feel that way. But the Panthers organizationally have given me a reason to feel that way because they would lie about something stupid as a high ankle sprain.
Yeah.
And basically brazenly do it, not admit it, continue to act as if it was a real injury, as if that's the thing too. They continue to act like everyone is stupid that they're talking to. And that's where I think Panthers fans get frustrated because they're like, we watch the games,
yeah, we
right?
watch the games. People.
And so with Ian Rappaport out there saying oh, they're going to trade for a receiver. Trade with what?
What do you have?
With what exactly?
Yeah, what do you have? You don't have anything at this point.
What would anyone want on your team?
Doesn't make any sense.
Picks? Sorry, we're fresh out of those.
Yeah.
But what receiver are you going to be trading for that's going to make a difference in here? What are they watching? And that's, I think, the bigger issue, right? It's not so much that they're incompetent. It's what are you actually watching that you think these things are attainable? And if you don't think they're attainable, then you think we're all really dumb.
You know the wildest part about this?
What?
No one gives a damn about the Carolina Panthers.
I do.
So let's
well, unless it's to laugh.
People aren't even laughing. The Panthers are essentially an afterthought in national NFL coverage. Let's put
unless they laugh at Tepper. That's the other thing.
They're not even doing that.
No.
Let's put these things in does it check off the box of fascination for NFL people, right?
Yeah.
You had a team that gave up a lot to move up and take this quarterback who is not panning out. And there's no larger conversations about is BryceYoung a bust? None. It's usually focused on other things like the disaster that is Chicago.
Yep. It's a higher profile media market. Just ask DJ Moore. He said it.
Market does matter in these cases too. But the recipe is there for people to just absolutely deep dive into what's gone wrong with the Panthers in the first 4 weeks nationally. I'm not talking about our friends like Mike Kay at the Charlotte Observer. I'm not talking about Joe Person at The Athletic. They're doing their job on the beat. To one of our conversations off the air, it is funny how the people on the beat do all this work and then yet still things go to national guys like Pete Thamel and Riley Leonard, right?
Yep.
But I don't even think that the Panthers are interesting enough that somebody's going to get a national nugget. Nobody's going to go Adam Schefter on what's going on behind the scenes with the Carolina Panthers because nobody gives a shit about the Carolina Panthers at all. It's wild to me.
Do you know when they did?
When they had Cam.
Yeah. Do you know when they didn't?
When they didn't have Cam.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it's been every year since I've been a Panther. And there have been times they've been much more watchable and actually entertaining than they are now. And I've been like, hello, can we get a little love here?
Yeah.
But then we get on national TV and we embarrass ourselves on Monday night. And now no one is talking about them anymore because there's no reason to.
I'm one of the weirdos that still watches the occasional NFL pregame show on Sundays. I'll watch Sunday Night Football in America or whatever the hell the thing's called on NBC.
I don't mind that as much as the pregame.
Tonight I'll I'll have ESPN on in the background and I'll see what they're talking about.
Yeah.
They're going to be talking about the Jets and Zach Wilson. They're going to be talking about
Taylor Swift,
all the behind the scenes drama, the palace intrigue at Hallis Hall for the Chicago Bears. They'll get into some other topics. But when it comes to a recipe for, hey, is this quarterback a bust? What's really going on behind the scenes? Not a soul is talking about it, which David Tepper, sometimes I wonder if he does things specifically so he can take headlines back so he can be discussed. Because remember, moving up to the number 1 pick in the draft, one of the key quotes that went out there when they did it was, we now control the draft. And they even tried to sprinkle in some conversations about, hey, just because we moved up doesn't mean we'll actually use that pick. We might move back too.
Oh my God.
You don't remember all that stuff from the spring?
A literal 15-year-old playing Madden is running this franchise.
Yes.
So that's fun.
Yeah.
That's fun for everyone.
A lot of fun there.
They don't have exciting players.
No, they don't.
Like they don't personality-wise too, right? Like why did everyone continue to tune in to Colorado even though they got blown out and even though it was a blow? Exactly.
Sure.
They have not, and that's why Cam was more than Cam. It wasn't just on the field.
Mm-hmm.
It was his off the field persona. He was larger than life. How many players have the Panthers had like that in their franchise history? I can think of a couple, like Steve Smith was certainly one.
Yeah, but Cam took it to another level.
Yeah, 100%.
Took it to another level.
So why would anyone pay attention to you when you're not interesting?
No. Yeah. That's worse than being 0-4, by the way.
100%.
You're not even interested.
You're not even fun bad.
At 0-4. Speaking of keeping things simple, not overcomplicating things, buying a house should not be complicated. And that is where Hometown Realty comes into play. Buying or selling a house should not be complicated. So much so that myhtr.com has it really, really easy to understand. Are you buying? Click that. Are you selling? Click that one. And they have a mortgage calculator as well. And don't take some of this guaranteed money nonsense. The way the market is right now, homes are going for over list. So why? Why would you settle for anything less? Hometown Realty can put you in the best position to succeed. Also, big thanks to Whitaker and Hammer. Hey, you might have to close on that house. Maybe you're refinancing and you got to close. Whitaker and Hammer can handle that. Check them out, wh.lawyer. All the legal services that you can think of, they've got it. Attorney and counselors at law. Again, check them out at wh.lawyer. Again, that's wh.lawyer.
We're moving on.
People want to move on from Brennan Armstrong over at NC State, Lauren. They're ready to move on.
I mean, to be fair, that's kind of their MO with quarterbacks lately.
It has been.
I mean, I'm not trying to like, I get why State fans are frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
And I get why the insanity of like doing the same thing over and over again, it feels like you have to try something different.
Mm-hmm.
I understand those things, but I'll be honest, it shocked me last year because I think a lot of people, a lot of fans, a lot of other people really believed in Devin Leary. We were told all offseason like how good he was going to be, and then all of a sudden
he got hurt.
I know, but that was it.
He got hurt.
A lot of quarterbacks, when they get hurt,
yeah,
they come back and can compete, or can be the starter again.
Yeah.
And it was just all of a sudden like, bye.
And you're seeing what's happening at Kentucky, and Devin Leary's been fine, but like this past weekend, Kentucky won because their offensive line is great and they had a running back go for 500 yards. So it's not all back to the quarterback, but things have gotten to a point at NC State that, and I referenced it earlier. I mentioned 2005 being a time in which NC State was going through the quarterback wilderness.
Some real bad Carolina State games in that era.
Oh yeah,
just real bad.
For the young folks in the audience, there is a blessing and a curse for doing this as long as Lauren and I have done it. We've seen some really, really bad triangle football.
Didn't Carolina win like 9-6 one year in Charlotte? I was at that game.
I got it. Oh, I want to say that was like 97.
90,
was it not?
Yeah, I was at that game.
No, not 97.
No, you're right. It was 90s though.
It was like 90s when that happened.
Sorry, I get them all mixed up.
Hey, after a while, they do kind of run together after a while. But NC State has been through this before, and they seem to be going through this for a variety of reasons. Injuries probably being the biggest one. Development not coming at the time that the program would like. But NC State is coming off a 3-year period where things were set up for them.
Absolutely.
But things just something went wrong. And whether it was scraping by the pandemic year with Bailey Hockman doing what he had to do, Devin Leary getting hurt and having to go through multiple quarterbacks, including MJ Morris, who was positioned as
No,
the
that was the
future.
next big thing, apparently. So
Yes, he was the next big thing. And this season, speaking of messaging, was always set up to be a transitionary year.
Mhm.
You bring in Robert and you pair him with Brennan Armstrong, you try to recreate that stuff that happened at Virginia. Of course, as you're coming to find out, that Virginia squad with Bronco Mendenhall had dudes on it, which is something that NC State does not have. And Giglio did a deep dive on that in the last Law of the Wolf, as recruiting has changed since about 2018 and how they've not necessarily developed guys either. But the problem that NC State has right now is it's going to get really chippy if the season continues the way it's going.
100%.
And I bring up 2005 because that's also the time when things started to get chippy with Herb Sendek, where Herb Sendek was a perfectly fine coach, but tenure and lack of success ended up putting it in a situation where people were just ready to move on, and it boiled over. And if the season progresses on this trajectory, it's going to boil over again with a fan base that is sitting here screaming, put MJ Morris in. Now, to that end,
it's not going to be the cure-all that they think either. Though.
It's not the cure-all they think it's going to be.
I mean, they probably know that to some degree. But.
Maybe. That's the thing. I don't know. I think what people see is they see an offense that can't do squat with Brennan Armstrong.
They see Brennan making some inaccurate throws, which he is wanting to do for sure.
And they're thinking, all right, well, we know what we've got with him. And even Dave Dorn said after the game on Friday night, we know what the issues are we have to fix, i.e. the offense. But here would be the question that I would put back into this conversation.
Yeah.
What are you accomplishing by throwing MJ Morris into situations that he does not look like he's set up to succeed? There's nothing about NC State's offense right now that would lead you to believe that they are a competent quarterback away from turning things around offensively.
You're right.
The line is a mess.
Yeah.
Wide receivers outside
running
of
game. What's that?
There is Brennan Armstrong is his running game.
Yeah.
So are you in a rush to get MJ Morris out there to salvage whatever it is you think the season is? A rush to put him out there actually going to hurt his development? Because Dave Dorn has straight up said he is redshirting. Now you get 4 games now that you can play and still be able to redshirt, which gets to the other thing. What at this point in time, with so many games left, are you willing to burn that red shirt at the expense of potentially getting him hurt again? Because that's the other thing. Brennan Armstrong's out there running. Do you want to put MJ Morris in that situation?
That's the thing. Like, I think Dave knows what he has in Brennan, and I think that's the reason why he hasn't pulled him. One of many, but one of them is, and this is growth for Dave, because Brennan will turn it over. I mean, we've seen it. And sometimes he will make some WTF passes that will frustrate you. And Dave hates turnovers more than anything in the world. And he's kept playing Brennan because he's a veteran dude. Things aren't going to be easy for them on the offensive side of the ball, but they have to have somebody in there that can try to make some plays. Brennan can do that too. We've seen it. He threw some pretty good passes on Friday night, to be honest. Is the other stuff still in him? Like, yeah. And it's kind of like the roller coaster you have to ride when it comes to Brennan Armstrong, but like, he's also getting the crap beat out of him. Like, he's also your entire running game. Nothing else is working around him. And he can handle that. He's been at Virginia in worse circumstances than he's in now, to be honest. So like, Brennan can take this. And maybe that's some of where Dave's coming from too, is like, MJ's not. But I think State fans also are looking a little bit back at, like, remember, things felt pretty hopeless offensively for State last year too. And then MJ comes in and it did give them like a spark. And so maybe that's what I think State fans are looking at. Like, oh, well, that could work again. It worked last time.
Oh, no, I totally get. I understand where that sentiment comes from. You're looking for anything. Because it doesn't make
logical sense.
Yeah, you're looking for anything right now. And to your point, you're absolutely right that in the history of Dave Dorn being the head coach at NC State, the one thing he loathes out of the quarterback, what ultimately kept Devin Leary off the field when everybody was screaming
and other
for
quarterbacks too, P.S. It has.
Yeah, right. But you mentioned Devin Leary. Here was this guy that people were screaming for. And the reason why Dave did not put him in that position was because he had a propensity to turn the ball over. Again, it was about the development. Dave's all about development, which gets back to the larger conversation.
But are we in a development age anymore in college football?
We're technically not because of the transfer portal.
Right.
But again, hear me out on this. The reason why Dave's acting the way he's acting, and he's upfront about the fact that he's going to redshirt MJ Morris, as our neighbor Rick pointed out to me, what's a redshirt in the NIL transfer era, which is a valid point. But Dave is working from a position that a lot of coaches are not. And this is probably the thing that frustrates NC State fans the most. Dave's got job security. Dave's not going anywhere. He is operating as a coach that understands there is no fire under his ass to turn this season around or else. Okay. Now,
that doesn't mean he likes State fans being mad at him, though. He doesn't.
Absolutely not. Salty Dave's going to be Salty Dave.
Yes. And he's going to get saltier.
And he is as the season progresses and people start doing things like posting BryceYoung is missing on campus.
Eventually, or MJ is missing. Yeah, we saw
I'm sorry. What did I say? BryceYoung is missing?
I mean,
yeah, that's true too.
Whatever.
Yeah, this was on campus apparently yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's a missing persons pamphlet that was around campus. I'm pretty sure this is right by Tucker and the two freshman halls, which I can't remember off the top of my head. It's by Witherspoon Student Center, which I was at this past weekend. It says missing MJ Morris, sophomore. If you have any information about MJ, please contact Dave Dorn. You know, it's like identifying characteristics, throws nukes, bulletproof. I don't know about the bulletproof part, but
that's my only issue with State fans at all in all of this is that I feel like because of especially because of the quarterback success they've had, like in recent years, it's like they get a quarterback in, they let themselves get super excited about him. And then he has like a couple bad games and they're ready to throw him in the garbage. Like literally.
Now, you've made this point before, is that quarterbacks at NC State are a lot like point guards at UNC.
Yeah,
if it's not up to the standard they think it should be, well, then here we are.
You got to let him, you got to have some patience with a quarterback because you're not going to get in a sure thing at quarterback. Like if you're NC State in the transfer portal or elsewhere, like at this point, I
wanted to get back though, to wrap up the point. I did want to get back to Dave Dorn tenure. If Dave, he has tenure.
No, I guess, yeah.
He essentially has tenure.
You're right.
The last couple seasons, all the ups and downs aside, what did Dave Dorn do that a lot of NC State coaches end up getting fired for? Or if they don't do. He beat Carolina the last couple of years.
Listen, I feel like that's kept him employed before.
We're probably having a separate conversation about Dave Dorn if the last two seasons don't end with UNC wins in some pretty wild games, which is why I love those games in general. So if you take those wins out to go full Jeff Bizdelic on this whole thing.
Our radio people told us that you take away those runs and we outscored them by 19. So
if you take away those two UNC wins, we're having a separate conversation about Dave Dorn. I think that's fair.
No, it is.
So because that is there, he has those in the bag. It has bought Dave Dorn time.
Yes.
Dave Dorn, his entire tenure at NC State has been about building towards breakthrough seasons. All right. This year was going to be a reset after 3 years of pandemic football and a roster that was old. Okay. Now that he didn't cash it in. And if you want to bang on Dave Dorn for not cashing in those years, you are more than free to do so. I got zero issues with that because the results are the results. You built, you didn't pull it through. Got it. But it's pretty clear that this season was always going to be a reset with MJ Morris development leading into next year with a freshman class of wide receivers that will be seasoned. Like if they can keep Casey Concepcion, that'd be nice, right?
Yeah, for sure. I forgot about him for most of the game. Friday, except for once.
He ended up, I think he had some injury issues in that game too.
Yeah, I think so too.
So there's that. You can also go through the portal to add who you need in the skill position set. And that's where you're building towards. You're able to do that when you know you've got job security. And Dave Dorn has that, which gets to a larger conversation. You and I talked about a lot of bad football that we've seen over time. And Gilio and I referenced it last week. We're in uncharted territory with a coach like Dave Dorn because coaches around here don't last that long.
No, for sure.
For instance, there are a lot of folks understandably seeing
Mac's
Mike,
the only one who did it at Carolina, Cutcliffe at Duke.
Well, Mac has done it over the course of 2 eras, essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, remember, he left for Texas.
Do I remember? I remember.
Lauren. The thing that still gets you upset.
No, I just remember that how I was upset.
So
I understand. I get it now. I'm an adult now.
So there's been conversations about, you see what Carolina's doing with recruiting, and they got Drake May, and people are hyped about that. You see what Mike Elko's done in year 2, where they bring game day and they took Notre Dame to the brink. And Chilio brought this up in terms of Bermuda Triangle for coaches, and he put into yellow pad stats what I basically have been kind of arguing the last couple of weeks in terms of, when we talk about Dave, we talk about Dave in a way that we've never talked about a triangle coach ever, because most of these coaches aren't here for very long. Either they leave for somewhere else or they get fired. And look at how many coaches, Lauren, actually haven't left. You mentioned Mac. Mac left, but every other coach, what's gone on? They've been fired.
Yep. And didn't go on to do something better elsewhere, usually.
So Dave's just in a weird spot with NC State, and I understand.
Except for their coordinators.
Yeah, that's true.
Matt Canada falls up regularly.
Dave's in a really weird spot with NC State, and I totally understand the frustration, but it's fairly clear that Dave's not going anywhere. Boo Corrigan is not making any sort of moves.
No.
They're setting themselves up for next year, and the worst thing that they could do this season is try to cobble together something at the expense of MJ Morris's development, or putting him out there and something worse happens. He gets hurt because an offensive line can't keep him upright, like we're seeing with Brennan Armstrong.
Dave's never been the type to do things just because fans want it.
No.
In fact, sometimes I think, if anything, he won't do something because he knows the fans.
Yeah. No, that's entirely
So
possible.
I'll be at least somewhat surprised if that gets burned.
Also, shout out again to Wings Over. Check them out. Wings Over Raleigh, Wings Over Chapel Hill, Wings Over Greenville. I feel like sometimes you just have to eat your feelings based on what you saw. And Wings Over is a good way to eat your feelings. Just throwing that out there for everybody.
Yeah, I had several white chocolate Reese's cups after that Panthers game.
Look at you. Nice. Big thanks to Breeze Through. There was a horse escape at the NC State Fairground Horse Complex, and some horses ran through the Breeze Through there by PNC Arena, Carter Finley Stadium. They got it on security camera.
Oh, awesome.
They broke contain.
Oh, boy.
Maybe NC State should throw a jersey on some of those horses, see if they can break some running game. That'd be good.
Don't put them at receiver, though.
Yeah, probably not the best
great
idea.
hands.
Probably not the best idea. So big thanks to Breeze Through for sponsoring Ovies and Giglio. Again, check them out in their locations across the Triangle, across North Carolina. But if you're looking to tailgate at PNC, Carter Finley, convenient location right there. You're off to Keenan this week. Syracuse is in town. You're going to go say hi to Lauren's friend, Otto the Orange. Hey, there's a Breeze Through just outside Chapel Hill. You can crack a cold one with Otto.
Yeah. Oh.
No, not something you want to do?
He disturbs me. You know that.
Probably not. Also, big thanks to Butcher's Market. Actually hit the Butcher's Market this past weekend to get some goodies. The steak tips, always phenomenal. I had some leftover steak tips. You know what I did with them? I made nachos with them.
Oh, okay.
So I took some of this leftover steak tips, chopped them up, put them over some chips, cheese, guac, all that stuff. Put it under the broiler for a little bit. Delicious.
Oh, yeah.
Big fan of that. Big fan of that. Big fan of the Butcher's Market locations across the Triangle and in Wilmington. And they also have, they carry our friends Groove Wagon. I know they do that over in the Wilmington location. I'm pretty sure the Wilmington location. So go check them out. And of course, they got sandwiches as well. Whether it's the steak and cheese, the Italian, you name it, they've got it.
Next topic, please.
You ready for it's Taylor Swift's fault the Kansas City Chiefs were bad last night? But one?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's the regular, blame a woman section of our country.
It's like, do you think that the Chiefs were distracted by the fact that Taylor Swift was in the box that night at MetLife Stadium?
Probably. Get over it. Be adults. Y'all act like anything that happens in your real life is a distraction that should be dismissed. People have real lives. They're real human beings. They don't exist as football robots for your pleasure.
You know what I found even more amusing?
What's that?
Than Taylor Swift and all the coverage and the people who are mad online about, oh my God, how many times are they going to show Taylor Swift? Every national broadcast always harps on some sort of human interest story. It just so happens that this one is Taylor Swift dating Travis Kelce.
And frankly, this type of story going on during a football game, right? A story that's not involving the actual football game, gives us a dose of what I think makes college football a more fun product on a, like, generally speaking, because we do the memes and the crowd shots and like all of that stuff, and it's funny. And in the NFL, there's just less of that. Like, we don't care as much. There's not as much of that culture in the NFL
because people
like,
just want their football.
Exactly. So
give me my football.
It's funny and cool, I think, to have, like, I mean, some of my friends that would never watch football are now like watching every second and like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's just a fun thing that gets extra attention on the game of football. It's not life and death. It's okay if they were distracted by Taylor Swift being in the box. Wouldn't you be? Now stop crying and get over it.
You know, here's my question.
Men are so emotional.
They really are.
I mean, there's men out there like criticizing the faces that Brittany Mahomes was making. Like, look how miserable she looks with she's probably just making a face at something she read on her phone. Like, leave this woman alone.
Either that or she's wondering why her husband continues to make bad throws. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I'm sorry.
It could be a number of things.
Exactly.
Well, no, you're right. You're always going to pit women versus women. People love to do that.
Exactly.
And
even though they were like hanging out and get along great, apparently.
And people also do love to do the thing where, oh, okay, there's this hot woman in the state. Oh, well, clearly that's disrupting everything. It's the Yoko Ono, right?
And you know who does that? Men.
Yes.
Men do that while they criticize the women for being into stupid stuff like Taylor Swift and who she's dating.
Yeah.
Then they're the ones that are going to be like, oh, look at that scowl Brittany Mahomes just gave. You can tell she's jealous of Taylor. What do you think you sound like? Who do you think you sound like right now?
But I think the buried lead isn't. It's not about Taylor Swift. I think the buried lead is. I'll ask you this.
Okay.
Does Aaron Rodgers show up in New York last night? If Taylor Swift isn't there?
No. I mean, maybe because he is kind of an attention,
He is. He knew, all eyes are going to be in New York because Taylor Swift is there. I need in on that action. The story, he had to be medically cleared to get on a plane to head to New York from LA. And he was out there on crutches for like the first couple of minutes. And then he was on the box looking disinterested. I'm pretty sure he was looking at his phone at one point.
Again,
performative. He was there because he wanted the camera on him.
If like Taylor Swift weren't going to be there, he'd probably have been photographed like outside some cenote ready to go in or something. Like that's the attention he would have ordered. But he would have ordered some of it.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. That is entirely possible. I don't know. I just the whole thing with Taylor Swift is comical to me.
It's great. I think it's so fun.
It shows you the power.
It's good for the NFL,
which
100%.
Is funny. It shows you the power of Taylor Swift that the already popular NFL, the number one sport in America, that actually brings casuals to the table.
Including, by the way, I think their last estimate was 47% of their fans are women.
Taylor Swift. I know, weird when you actually cater to women.
When you acknowledge that women exist.
Weird. It actually benefits you. So strange that I do think it's interesting that Taylor Swift is able to take an already incredibly popular sport and something that actually affects the culture in this country and then elevate it even more.
Listen, man, it's
unreal.
I only slightly joke when I say she could probably win the presidency. It's only a slight joke.
To your point about emotional men.
Oh, sure. I love this.
There were some folks, like Danny Cannell included, that were like, I've never seen the Taylor Swift concert movie promotion until now. It's all a work.
I was literally getting, I'm not even into Taylor Swift like that.
I know.
I was getting alerts.
I know.
Like constantly, buy tickets to this. Like, y'all are ridiculous. Do y'all really think, like, yes, the NFL is huge. We all understand that. But do y'all really think that like everyone in America literally knows like the most important players y'all know because you play? No, they don't.
No, they don't.
Get over it.
Thanks to Mosquito Authority for sponsoring Ovias and Giglio. Check them out, bugsbite.com. With Mosquito Authority, they've got the guys with the backpacks. They go around your yard and they make sure the mosquitoes are kept at bay. With Pest Authority, they come into your house and around your house to make sure those critters don't come inside. You got issues with camel crickets. They can handle that. Roaches, they can handle that. Moisture issues underneath your house. Again, they've got those barriers as well. Check them out at bugsbite.com. Let's get out of here with some Hey Joe questions brought to you by Oakwood Pizza Box. Check them out online at oakwoodpizzabox.com. All right, Lauren, let's see. Let's go to Patty on Twitter. Would game day's choice for North Carolina barbecue have only been worse if it was city barbecue? There's nothing wrong with city barbecue. Follow up. Should game day just be 30 minutes of Lee Corso wearing mascot heads and nothing else?
No, it'd have been worse if it was like red hot and blue.
Yeah, so they went to a barbecue place called like Moe's, and their signature
I've never heard of that.
And their
Have
signature
you?
thing is like Alabama white sauce, which doesn't really make a lot of sense.
The founders are SEC guys.
Well, then why'd they go there?
You know why.
Seriously, why'd they go there?
I don't know. Because they clearly don't have as many North Carolina people on their staff anymore as they used to.
Yeah, there's that.
Like, I honestly thought with our guys, like with Ryan McGee around, I'm like, surely this won't get screwed up. I know it's
They're busy
different.
doing SEC stuff.
Right. But Ryan did a great feature on Wallace Wade and like going to games as a kid and all that. I knew they would treat game day well, and they did. But like everyone else there's just like they played Carolina in my mind twice in the broadcast, which I thought was funny.
Yes.
But I also don't think it was intentional. Like, it'd be funnier if it was intentionally trolling both UNC and Duke fans, but it wasn't intentional because there's no one around in that broadcast. It was very clear.
Yeah.
No one around on that production knew anything about North Carolina as a state in general.
What's funny is that Steve Kirshner called out that Carolina on my mom.
Oh yeah, he did.
And I was like, good for Steve.
Yeah.
So if you don't know,
they should know better.
Steve Kirshner's, I forget his like very long title,
like chief communications athletic
director of XYZ.
Steve's great. He's been around Carolina forever. Really good at his job.
Yeah, dude's a walking encyclopedia of all things North Carolina. Okay,
yes.
And he called that out. I thought it was his because even I was like,
and like Steve doesn't do that very much on Twitter.
No,
like he really doesn't.
He doesn't.
He's very like
So I thought it was interesting too that the little touches that really would highlight the area were missing from game day, right down to the fact that Pat McAfee has no clue.
Like, it'd be like them playing Cascada on UNC's broadcast.
Yeah, that'd be funny. That'd be funny. So like there was one point in the broadcast where Pat McAfee went after Washington State because of what had happened with the coach and everything else.
It was only a matter of time before game day went in this direction.
And
P.S.
you have old Crimson fly in the background. Now, even the most casual of college football observers who watch game day know that the Washington State flag is always there.
At game day, yeah.
They've done features on it on game day.
Yep.
At one point during the pandemic, I'm pretty sure that game day took one of the flags out of their ESPN offices in Bristol and took it to where it needed to be to keep the tradition alive. McAfee acted like he had no idea why there was a Washington State flag in the background. None.
I get that. Like, I'm not trying to say that he's okay. He has a shtick and people are into it, and that's cool.
He's a wrestler. I get it. It's a work.
But that's his shtick. And what I don't understand is why ESPN, I know they paid him a lot of money. I get all of that. But ESPN has never made its entire image as a network around one person. Why would they be doing that now?
No, I would disagree with you on that. I mean, Stephen A. Smith, Mike Greenberg, they will make things about certain personalities that they pay a lot of money to. Chris Berman for the longest time. But are they going to be tweeting about his hangover? That's the stuff I'm talking Lauren,
about.
It was food poisoning. It was food poisoning.
Whatever. But like that's what it's so stupid. And like we all knew what they were doing. It's like y'all know that like we can tell that this is like manufactured and forced. It's not authentic.
Yeah.
It's not like Shefty's just hanging out with Pat McAfee and tweets that as a joke, which one of us might do to our media colleagues of like playing her, working off a hangover.
I've been at Final Four Radio Rows where I've had to puke and rally between interviews.
But that was so clearly a social media manager's like idea to do this. And it was so forced and fake.
They're
and
trying
it's like,
to get young people.
It's not going to work by being phony.
Yeah, they're just trying to get young people.
They know that y'all can, like, we can all see through this.
Theoretically.
Yeah.
From Lake, how long is this Panthers rebuild going to take?
What did Matt Rule say? 7 years?
Oh, stop it. We're not doing that. We're not going 7. He's not going to last that long. Frank Reich ain't going to last 7 years.
No.
From Luke, in honor of State Fair Foods getting announced this week, most overrated, underrated fair food.
Okay, I really make a point to get those, what is it, peach something donuts?
Oh,
those big donuts, like this big.
I know what you're talking about.
Those donuts are
candy
so good.
apples
Every year.
Those are the most overrated for me. Overrated.
I've never even had one because I don't really. It's not really
they
my
just
thing.
don't. They just don't appeal to me.
But that was my underrated one. Was the donut.
From Anchor Bill, what is the average age for giving up on bathroom humor? Oh, I don't think somebody.
I wouldn't know.
I don't think somebody liked your fart tweets from Friday night.
Oh wow. Reads a little condescending and sexist, buddy, but that's fine. You.
The average age for giving up on bathroom humor
is none of your business.
Well, A, it's none of your business.
It's
B,
block. It's unfollow.
It's called
unfollow and shut up.
Poop and fart jokes are universal. They'll never stop being.
Listen,
funny.
I did feel a little I was getting a little carried away with it, I'll be honest.
Yeah, just a smidge.
But that's okay.
Just
it's
a
not any
smidge.
of that guy's business. Go police your own children. I'm not your kid.
If NC State, this is from Hornets fan. If NC State beats Marshall for the rest of the year in football, how toasty? Only beats Marshall the rest of the year. How toasty is that seat?
Well,
don't
take that for granted.
Yeah, no, don't take that for granted. And again, I don't think Dave Doran's seat is hot at all.
That's the thing too. Like we even mentioned Pat Narduzzi as well at Pitt. They both have exorbitant buyouts that neither school can.
Yep.
Or has an alumni that's going to step up and be like, I got it.
I don't even think it's about a buyout situation. I think they just understand you. Dave's building towards something else. We're going to give him the time. And that's that. Dave's not going anywhere. From Scott Thomas, what is your best TeePublic t-shirt, Lauren?
Ooh, this is up there for me. My Midsommar shirt. I also have a great shirt of Pearl, the movie. I don't know. My favorite one is actually probably my Corncob TV shirt. I get a lot of wear out of that. It's versatile in the color scheme.
Mm-hmm.
Those shirts are a great. P.S. Like they're a regular part of my daily wardrobe. So.
Love it. All right. From Ken, we have a Love Island All-Stars coverage. Chris Hughes posting up from the 10th hole at the Ryder Cup got me excited for the return.
Oh my God. Dude, I want to. Who signs up? Y'all want to pay me to do it? I'll do it. I'll do it for you if somebody wants to pay me. I have at least one girlfriend that I know. She and I gather, even the British one, we gather to watch the episodes for the British one.
All right.
I mean, Love Island Games. I'm here for it. I'm psyched. Love Island Games. That's in November, but I guess they have another UK. Is there really another UK season coming? Oh my God.
I don't know. I don't watch the show.
Literally just ended. Like a month
from
ago.
Robin, how many more games will NC State win this year? Will Riley Leonard return in time for the state game? My guess is, October 28th is the NC State game, I think it is. No, it's in 2 weeks.
It's sooner than that.
Clemson is October 28th for NC State. Duke is after Marshall. I don't think he's going to be back for that game.
Yeah.
If I had to guess.
I would guess that as well. That high ankle sprains are, that would probably be the first game he maybe would come back for, though.
Yeah. Let's see. From your Canadian girlfriend, is it really preseason hockey time? Yes. Given what's gone on with the Carolina Panthers, welcome to hockey season in terms of professional sports here in North Carolina.
Also, quite literally, it is.
It is too. Preseason. It is too. Also, from Gumi, my wife and I are currently vacationing in Europe. Did we miss anything exciting? Any exciting offensive football this weekend from the Pack or the Panthers? Thanks.
I have to shout you out for your very casual but great flex.
That is a great
My
flex.
wife and I are vacationing in Europe. Have we missed any sports while we were away?
Do we need to watch any of this stuff? No, we don't.
No, you didn't miss anything. You're in Europe.
From Juan, what are better ways for State Jets fans and Panthers casuals to spend their weekend rather than suffering through this football season?
Well, I think you answered your own question.
It is fall. Go apple picking or something. I don't know.
Go to a movie.
There you go.
That's what I do.
From Bennett, hey, Joe, with the way Sam Howell's playing and Drake May is going to get drafted in the top 5, UNC has to be working on a QBU graphic right now, right?
No, they're not going to do that.
They should. Actually, better than that. Rather than a graphic, put a sign up on 40.
That would be funny. They won't do those kinds of things.
They should, though.
They should. You and I agree on that. They should lean more into the trolling.
And finally, from Brad, is it disrespectful for Giglio to take the day off just to yell at himself while playing at Prestonwood? Hey, how Joe spends his time outside of the studio is how Joe wants to spend his time. And if he wants to frustrate himself playing golf,
there are people who choose to play that irritating sport every day.
Yep. And that's cool.
Couldn't be me.
No, not me either. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for today's show. We will see you Tuesday.